Well, I'm delighted to be here with Ian Heptinstall, who participated in our logical thinking process course this week, along with a pair of participants from West Africa, and also a couple of industrial participants from Strasbourg. And this is my first opportunity to meet you, Ian, and I have to say I am delighted. Your reputation has preceded you, and I'm delighted to make your acquaintance at this long last.
And it's great to be here, Bill. And likewise, your reputation has very much preceded you.
Thank you.
And this is from somebody who had a copy of the original Goldrat's Theory of Constraints.
Which is long since out of print, and that's a collector's item.
It's their pride of place in my office.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, I was using the opportunity to be here to work through, to test out, to identify some risks and some ways of overcoming them from my own project aimed at tackling an improvement potential in the whole of the construction and capital project sectors around the world. Mm-hmm. An issue that's been bouncing around in my head for several years, something I've been working on, that I've tried to adopt a logical thinking process, and maybe I'd put the cart before the horse, but I leapt at the opportunity to come here to Paris to be required to go through in a structured manner to make sure I hadn't cut any corners, to make sure I wasn't overly blinding myself, and coming up with the answer that I'd preconceived. So
that's always a risk, and it's good to be able to evaluate things on a rational basis that way.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you, first of all, because I'm always interested in feedback, was there anything in particular that you saw during this week here that you hadn't seen or been exposed to before?
Yeah, there were certainly a number of new things.
Okay.
I suppose both in the detail and in the overall.
Okay.
So in one answer to that, the learning a repeatable process for, particularly for managing a change, a strategic change, to take an organisation through the process of identifying the right issue to solve, problem finding, and then moving into problem solving, identifying the direction, and then the detail, and reducing the risk. So although I'd come across all those elements, to get your recommendations for how to turn that into a change process, the steps to go to if one was facilitating that within an organisation. I found that great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that tells me that I have certainly achieved one of my main objectives with my approach to the thinking process, which is an orderly way of structuring complex systems. And we had a little chat about this at one point. I think you had a particular question or a comment that you brought up. Why don't you repeat that for our friends who are watching?
Yep, I'll even grab the book.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm sure they'll cut that bit out. So Bill, the logical thinking process, the update of your original work with many changes. You've called it a systems approach to complex problem solving.
Right.
Why do you think that complex problems can really benefit from having a systems approach to their resolution?
Well, that is a really good question, Ian, and I would say the answer has to be related to the issue of the Israelites evacuating from Pharaoh's rule in Egypt, and they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years before they found the promised land. You may not wander 40 years before you find a solution to your problem, but if you don't have a structured approach for searching it out and figuring out what it is and what to do about it, you can certainly wander for an awfully long time. So from my perspective, it becomes a systems approach to complex problem solving because it requires you ahead of time to, first of all, define the system and the environment that you are talking about. once you have that system identified along with its boundaries, you know what's inside the system and what's outside the system, and now you're better prepared when you start trying to find the problems to determine whether this is something over which you have influence or something you have to work around because you have no influence, can't change that at all, won't worry about that. We will avoid that completely and work around an alternative. So I guess that's kind of the long-winded answer to your question, which is you'll waste an awful lot of time if you don't have an organized, structured way to reduce complexity to something that most people can hold in there.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing those experiences with me, Bill, and thanks very much for your support and input this week. It's been fantastic.
Thank you very much.
It's
been great. Thank you.
Bye.